Good afternoon. Welcome to TNC Radio.live. This is the Truckers Network radio show. Now here's your host, Shelley Johnson.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. Yes, this is the Truckers Network radio show on TNC Radio.live, where we offer the entertainment, sports, weather, traffic, news, and information that our commercial drivers want to hear. The Freedom Convoy in Canada and drivers in Ottawa have been all over the news lately. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of mis- and disinformation about it, and we wanted to clarify what is going on. With us today are David Henry and Bridgette Readel from the Crazy Canuck Truckin podcast. David is an over-the-road driver from Canada who travels back and forth regularly between Canada and the United States. Bridgette is from the U.S. Bridgette lives in the United States and is an advocate for learning how to stand up for yourself and mentoring those around you. She brings a wealth of knowledge and insight from rural America. Bridgette will be joining us shortly. Welcome, David. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really welcome your insight and the inside scoop, if you will, on what really is happening in Canada.
Thank you, Shelley. Yeah.
So, there's a whole lot going on in Canada. There's so much to unpack. I appreciate your insight because it seems like the drivers in the convoy are being portrayed in a very negative light in both the U.S. and Canada. The public's not getting the proper information. And what I've heard and read by really researching it, drivers in Ottawa are peaceful. They're salting and shoveling sidewalks, feeding the homeless. It's nonviolent, but they're being treated as terrorists or insurrectionists and being called Nazis. Their bank accounts are being frozen in Canada. Fines are being issued if people bring diesel. I even heard drivers are being told their children will be taken away. Wow. And I'm not sure all of that's being reported. These are terrible precedents for Prime Minister Trudeau to be implementing in a free country. What's really happening in Canada?
Well, it is pretty hard to believe that this is not a third world banana republic somewhere. This has been, honestly, I've been in shock the last few days because of declaration of war, which is basically what it is. The War Measures Act has been, he's told that, we're going to do this, and the banks and government is allowed to seize or freeze or put a hold on anybody's property, money, assets, anything without a court order. Without a court order.
Wow.
This is, I thought I lived in Canada where there's due process of law. And make no mistake, there is provisions in the laws to take care of things that you don't like. If you don't, if there's illegal protests happening, there's absolutely ways they can do it without invoking the War Measures Act. And Trudeau has refused. He's called them terrorists. He's called them a fringe minority with unacceptable views. He went into hiding when it first started, expecting that he was listening to his people saying that this is not going to be a big event. Well, he made it into a big event by calling people a fringe minority with unacceptable views. That got everybody's attention, and that got more people involved than I believe would have been. I've never been involved in the protest. I don't agree with trying to overthrow the government, which is part of the mandate of this protest group, some of the leaders. What you generally don't hear is that most of the people involved are not truckers. They are other people. And even if they are truckers, most of them are not even cross-border drivers in the first place. So the freight moving between Canada and the US has remained the same, virtually unchanged. And we're out here still trying to haul our freight, keep the economy going, keep providing for our families. And it just seems, I've been very proud of the fact that on the first day of the protest, the police estimated, this was a police estimate, not anybody else's, estimated there was 1.5 million people in downtown Ottawa, and no violence, no statues getting toppled, There was some horrible things that happened to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and to a Terry Fox memorial, but those people are not part of the protest. They're taking advantage of this protest that's going on. Some mob mentality takes over, and it's been largely peaceful, except in downtown Ottawa. They are right now. There's a heavy police presence now, and trucks, cars, pickup trucks are honking their horns, and they've been doing that a lot during this protest. And to me, that has turned so many people in Ottawa against them. I have family members that live there, and it's very disturbing. Yes, there's no violence, but noise, violence is not fun.
Mm-hmm.
And but I'm glad, they have been helping each other out. They have been shoveling snow. It's kind of the Canadian way. We have a protest and it's 20 below outside.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Friend of mine down the States is, why are y'all protesting right now? Why don't you wait till summer when it's nice and you can have barbecues and stuff? So who says we're not having barbecues?
Right.
We can still have barbecues in 20 below.
Sure.
So it's very crazy times. Truckers are going to continue doing what truckers do. No matter how many kicks to the head we get in trucking, we still get the job done. And I'm very proud of that we don't just roll over and play dead. Unfortunately, there's been some border blockades, which all the blockades have been lifted. So that's good. The only place left now is Ottawa, and it seems like those protesters are willing to go to jail than to move out of there.
It seems like Prime Minister Trudeau could have avoided all of this if he had just spoken with the drivers and the people to find out what they want, hear their side, instead of portraying them as terrorists, insurrectionists, or it seems like that there's an attitude there of people who disagree and people who are doing this are the unwashed masses. I mean, he's trying to act like the aristocracy. I mean, that's kind of my take, but.
Well, he likes the title of King Trudeau.
Oh, does he?
That's exactly the issue. If he had met with the people, and he says we don't negotiate with terrorists. I'm sorry, none of these people started off as terrorists. They have a beef. They don't like some things that are happening. Many of us don't today. There's been I don't know if you've noticed, but the last 2 years have been kind of rough. And in trucking, we felt that a lot. And he has dismissed all of the feelings and all of the work that we have done as just a fringe group with unacceptable views. And they weren't terrorists to start with. They still aren't terrorists today.
Right.
I don't agree with what they're doing as far as still occupying there, but I have a real problem with seeing these people going to jail. I want them moved out of there. So it's a hard thing. And can you imagine? So anybody that doesn't believe your own view, you call them a terrorist. It's scary to think that if there's another nation that doesn't agree with Canada, is Trudeau going to do the same thing, saying, we don't agree with you, so we should go to war over this? Right. Wars have started over less than this.
Sure. It's very true. Oh, it's terrible.
There's always negotiations going on between nations. There's always negotiations. There should be negotiations here because they are not terrorists. They did not start out as terrorists. If Trudeau had said, I don't believe the same way you do, I respect your opinion. Let's see if we can come to some peaceful conclusion.
Yeah.
All of the provinces have been working on that and have been putting that out. But here's Trudeau doubling down, doesn't even describe what he's doing. He's going absolutely ballistic.
Yep.
Over, he's bringing a nuclear weapon for a backyard brawl.
Yes.
Or a backyard disagreement.
Right? It's very true. It's like a child having a temper tantrum, or he's got a bully pulpit instead of being a diplomat, which is what he's supposed to be as prime minister. That's part of the job. And he really did escalate everything, and what's going on with all of the sanctions and seizures, it's just plain scary. I want to unpack more here with you, David. We do have to go to break. We're talking with David Henry of the Crazy Canuck Truckin podcast. He's providing some terrific insight into what is actually happening in Canada. This is the Truckers Network radio show here on tncradio.live. Stay tuned for more coming up.
This blog on tncradio.live is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. Inspections for truck drivers. Getting stopped for an inspection in the middle of a delivery is a situation every truck driver dreads. Inspections are time-consuming and interfere with the driver's schedule for delivering their load on time. However, they are essential for regulating safety conditions for everyone on the road. There's 6 different levels of DOT roadside inspections. Each level has a unique set of requirements and can happen at any time. It's important to be familiar with all 6 levels of DOT inspections, so if you have one, you can pass. Level 1. North American Standard Inspection. The Level 1 inspection is often referred to as a full inspection and is the most thorough. There are 37 steps to a Level 1 inspection. During this inspection, the driver's credentials and the vehicle will be examined. Because the Level 1 inspection has so many steps, it does take a significant amount of time. A good way to help speed up the process of a Level 1 inspection is by staying on top of driving requirements and proper truck maintenance. Here's some things the inspector will check during a Level 1 inspection. Medical examiner certificate, alcohol and drug use, daily logs, hours of service, HOS documentation, seatbelt use, driver and vehicle inspection reports, brake system, chopping devices, exhaust system, truck frame, fuel system, turn signals, brake lamps, tail lamps, headlamps, lamps on projecting loads, safe loading, steering mechanism, suspension, tires, van and open-top trailer bodies, wheels and rims, windshield wipers, hazardous material, HM requirements. If you're a hazard hauler, have your shipping papers ready. Level 2. Walk-around driver vehicle inspection. Level 2 inspections are a less invasive process and are also the most common. They're similar to the Level 1 inspections, except there is less involvement in the vehicle inspection part. During the Level 2 inspection, the examiner will do a walk-around driver vehicle inspection. They'll check everything that's in a Level 1, but will not physically get under the vehicle. Level 3. Driver-only inspection. The Level 3 inspections are the second most common type of inspection. Since the inspection doesn't include the vehicle, it can go relatively quickly. A driver will be expected to present a record of duty status, that's RODS, driver's license, hazmat requirements, medical card and waiver, skill performance evaluation certificate, vehicle inspection report, HMDG requirements, and HOS documentation. Level 4. Special inspections. A Level 4 inspection is a one-time inspection of a specific trend within the industry. This type of inspection happens when the Department of Transportation wants to do further research on industry issues. Level 5. Vehicle-only inspection. A Level 5 inspection is like Level 1, but the driver is not present during the inspection. During this inspection, the examiner will check everything that's in the Level 1 inspection except those relevant to the driver. Level 6 Enhanced NAS inspection for radioactive shipments. The Level 6 inspection is only relevant to drivers that haul radioactive materials. These inspections are put into place to ensure that drivers who haul radioactive material are following proper safety protocol. This info blog was brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
Hey, rideshare drivers and gig economy workers. The host of TNCRadio.live, the Rideshare Rodeo Podcast, and the Gig Economy Podcast come together for news, talk, music, stories, laughs, and more. We're live Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, right here on TNCRadio.live.
Welcome back to the Truckers Network radio show here on TNCRadio.live. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly. We're talking with David Henry from the Crazy Canuck Truckin podcast. David, you've been offering wonderful insight into what's happening with the Freedom Convoy and what's actually happening in Canada. I thought what I would do is get some clarity here because there have been some misconceptions. What is the Freedom Convoy all about? What's the purpose? What have the people involved been concerned about? That's where there's been a lot of disinformation, I think.
Absolutely. The Freedom Convoy started with the idea that they wanted to get rid of the cross-border mandates. That was the first thrust of the convoy was let's get rid of these mandates. Let's have a convoy to get rid of these mandates. And what happened was non-truckers got involved, that their memorandum of understanding was that they were going to take this convoy into Ottawa and demand that everything be changed, all of the mandates, across Canada, within the provincial borders, within crossing the borders, everything has to be dropped. Everything that's been put in place in the last 2 years has to be dropped. And if that doesn't happen immediately, then the government must be overthrown. And that's where I drew the line personally. I don't like the mandates, but I've been following the rules. I was a cross-border driver before the mandate started, and I'm still a cross-border driver. I've followed all the rules. 90% of the truck drivers are following all the rules. And when they started saying they want to overthrow the government, that is where they lost me and many other drivers. And so they went into Ottawa. The idea started with some good intentions, and it's morphed into something that is really not very good, because you can see across almost all the provinces, the mandates have been getting dropped. There's been a timeline set out saying that these changes are going to happen within a certain time frame. So all the blockades have been lifted, but yet the people in Ottawa are still sitting there because they want to see Trudeau overthrown.
So that immediately put them in an antagonistic position. Do you think that that's why Trudeau didn't want to speak with them?
I don't know what information he was privy to. You would think that he had as much information as anybody, but I don't think it would make any difference with Trudeau. If you don't drink all of the Kool-Aid that he passes out all the time, then he won't talk to you anyway. So I don't think it would have made a difference for Trudeau. It's people that oppose his view or don't like his view, and they're unacceptable people then.
That does not seem like the Canadian way. Communication, freedom of speech, I mean, you folks have always had that. And that's not the way a leader should engage his people.
We've seen that arrogance from him and the Liberals for a long time, but he has definitely taken it to another level. He has been, he says one thing all the time and then acts in a completely different manner, and has done so. You look at all the different releases about him, and yet he's still in power. It is kind of baffling that anybody in the Liberal Party will support him.
Sure. Tom, you said you had a question for David, too.
So, David, I'm looking at all these different people who, it looks like there's 2 or maybe 3 groups that are actually part of this convoy stuff. There's the Pat King group, and well, you tell me what's going on. Who should we listen to? Who's speaking for whom?
I think anybody that listens to Pat King should really think carefully about what Pat King stands for. I don't agree with him one little bit. He's had some supremacist views, and in the beginning, it looked like he was part of the convoy. And by the time they came from Alberta to Winnipeg, it was being broadcast that he is not one of the leaders of the convoy. He's just there to support. So if you believe Tamara Litch, then Pat King is not one of the leaders.
Yeah. But, so in the last hour, she's put out a press release disavowing some of the things that he said, and so now the press is running around going, "Oh, there's a split in the leadership. These people don't all agree that, and carrying on." So I mean, there's stuff that's happening even as we do this show that is confusing, especially to those of us south of the border who don't quite know who these people are.
Yeah, well, he's been a hangers-on with this convoy right from the beginning, and she made that very clear as they hit Winnipeg, which is only a day and a half into the convoy, that Pat King does not speak for the convoy, but he's in Winnipeg, so the split that's there is something that's been there. Tamara, I'll give her credit for this, that she does not want any violence. She and her people have been saying, we are not going to fall. We are not going to allow ourselves to be drawn into conflict. They get arrested, they'll go peacefully. And we've seen that happen where people that have been arrested have gone very peacefully. And Pat King has said that this may come down to bullets. And that's not gonna end well.
It seems like you always have a hangers-on in these kind of situations, these antagonistic people who don't necessarily share the focus and the purpose, or the purpose gets convoluted.
That's what we've been, like right from the beginning, a bunch of us in trucking have been afraid of this. Like, we knew that Pat King was involved. We know his background. It's like, no, don't. But yet it feeds on itself sometimes, it becomes something that was not the intention in the first place.
So what do you think the end game is? Is there an end game? What will resolve this? Because I can't imagine, even if everybody leaves Ottawa, it's not still going to be there. People want change. What do they want, ideally?
Well, the change is happening. And you can see the CDC and others around the world are starting to say that some of these mandates, some of these things are not right. The numbers and the science don't back it up, despite how they try to play the numbers. So it's happening. And I think that it's really important that everybody continue to stand up for themselves, continue to say, not putting up with somebody bullying me or pushing me around. And we can do that without coming to bloodshed. We can do that without anything horrible like that happening. And I hope that all of the people in Ottawa leave. They've made their point, and I think that we will continue on. And the government has heard that there's a bit of discontent out here, to put it mildly.
Sure.
So.
And the government, by what Trudeau has implemented with freezing people's bank accounts, seizing assets, all of that, that's just increased or escalated the feeling of discontent, I would think. And maybe open people's eyes to say, hey, this is not good.
I think that is, I know people that are very much against the protesters and really want them out of Ottawa now. They are shocked and appalled by this move being made by Trudeau. So we still have some days to fight against this. And I hope that the pressure is kept on the government to walk this back before it gets worse.
Yes, I mean, that's a violation of people's rights. And you would not expect that in a country like Canada. where freedom of speech is also something that you have. You can object, and things can be resolved with conversation and diplomacy.
Yep.
It doesn't seem diplomatic at all from Trudeau. This definitely very scary precedent for sure. We have to go to break here. We're talking with David Henry, and Bridgette Readel has just joined us. We're going to be talking with her as well from the Crazy Canuck Truckin podcast, getting some insight on what's happening in Canada. This is the Truckers Network radio show here on tncradio.live. Stay tuned for more coming up. Becoming a truck driver is not an easy task. You have to meet several requirements. After reviewing and meeting the requirements, you'll need to obtain a CDL, or a commercial driver's license, through the DMV in your state. To get your CDL, you must pass a knowledge and skills test. Many drivers attend a trucking school to help prepare them for the tests. After successfully passing the CDL test, you now have your Class A CDL. Sounds pretty straightforward, right? Well, there's a little bit more to becoming a professional truck driver than just passing a few exams and getting your CDL. Trucking, as you may know, is not an easy career. It can be stressful, dangerous, lonely, and emotionally draining. Drivers need to make it a priority to become fully prepared for life on the road. Being prepared for life on the road can help avoid unnecessary mistakes and losses. Attending a trucking school is one way for drivers to prepare themselves for their new adventure. However, drivers don't always learn everything they need to be successful during their time at trucking school. Trucking schools will cover the basics for classroom instruction and in-driving modules, but new drivers need to learn more than just the basics. How do new drivers acquire the right training? The Truckers Network is proudly partnering with Advanced Pre-Employment Training, which is a training course for both professional drivers and trucking companies. Advanced Pre-Employment Training helps grow your industry knowledge by providing training courses on all the important topics for becoming a successful driver. These include pre-trip inspection, company representation, communication, document organization, bill of lading, refrigeration units, weight and axles, safety, and industry knowledge. Their focus points are to increase stability and growth in the business, eliminate mistakes and financial losses, maintain company safety ratings, and eliminate drivers and owner-operators quitting or losing their jobs. The Truckers Network members can now save 5% off advanced pre-employment training courses by using our exclusive promo code. Become a member today of the Truckers Network and save instantly on the industry's best products and services. Visit the Truckers Network website at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. That's app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
This is Alec Debogorski, and you are listening to TNCRadio.live.
Welcome back to the Truckers Network radio show here on TNCRadio.live. We're talking with David Henry and Bridgette Readel from the Crazy Canuck Truckin podcast. I guess an overriding question here is people are standing up. They want to be heard. How do we do this? How does this get done in a positive manner? How do we accomplish this exactly? Trying to get the word out. Obviously, communication, freedom of speech, that's our right as voters. And the lawmakers are supposed to be accountable. And you should be able to talk to your lawmakers, and they should listen. And you shouldn't be afraid to call them. They work for us. And if you vote, you have a right to an opinion. And they're supposed to represent their constituents. But obviously, violence is not the way to do things. And we've seen way too much of that, obviously, in the United States in 2020. Lots of violence. That hurts people. And it totally dilutes what you're trying to say. How do we do that exactly? Because obviously, there are people, both in Canada as well as the United States, they're unhappy with certain things. How do we make change in a positive way?
I think one of the first things we have to do is continue that positivity. You're right, as you said, Shelley. I'm not afraid to call my legislative folks. I voted for them, and when I call them, remember, this is a business relationship. I am not there to attack them personally. I am not there to drag them through the mud. I simply want to express my opinion, and I need to do it in a calm way. It's hard not to be emotional about some of the things that are going on. Being overly emotional, people don't want to listen to you anymore. You sound like a crackpot. So you pretty much got to stay level-headed, number one. Number two, don't forget, that when you are making those calls and making those statements, you don't want to go on with that mob mentality. So again, have done a little bit of research. I rarely make that phone call unless I have already done my own background and information, because if I don't, what if I'm not telling the right story? And we all say that there is no truth in media. I'm perpetuating that if I don't take the 5 minutes to figure out what's true or false.
Makes total sense. What do you think, David?
I think Bridgette is spot on as usual. You know, I to my embarrassment, one time many years ago, I was in a meeting with the principal at school, and one of my children was not being treated well, and I got quite angry. And the principal said, "I agree with your message, but I don't agree with the way you delivered it." And that is something I've had to learn, that, you know, we can get up and speak our piece, but we need to do it so that we are heard. If you yell and scream at somebody, change may happen, but are they going to resent you for it afterwards? But if you come to a peaceful agreement with people, there's not going to be that same resentment anymore, right? You need to think about these things so that you can affect change that is lasting, and change that people on all sides of it will say, okay, yeah, that's good. We can do that.
Makes sense. Now, like with the convoy, I know there are going to be some convoys in the United States as well. Should the groups be more focused and appoint someone who expresses the group's mission to be the communicator? Because obviously if you have everybody yelling and screaming, no one gets heard. And that's when the message gets diluted, misconstrued, and it gets reported in the media incorrectly too. Yeah, I kind of hope that you don't really get into convoys, because the opportunity for them to get hijacked by other people is so high. And that is not what we want to see. I say, you know, like, a lot of these problems are much, much more than just mandates. And a lot of them are simple everyday things that we deal with every day in trucking. You know, and if, you know, you go to a customer and they don't want to let you use their restroom, well, don't stand for that and say, you know, like, I'm not going there if you don't treat us like human beings. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't matter whether there's mandates out or not. You know, this is stuff that's happened for years. And I'm thankful that I work for a company where the boss doesn't put up with things like that. He doesn't put up with us sitting and waiting 6 hours at a place without getting paid. You know, he tells the customers, if you don't deal with my truck in a timely manner, we won't ever be coming back here again. And so all of these things, you know, I've worked for companies that say, well, we need to deal with them so that you can have a load. But as a truck driver, I'm like, no, I don't want to deal with those people ever. I don't want to go work there. I don't want to haul their freight if they're not treating me as a person. And it's same, you know, with stuff like this, you know, don't jump on the bandwagon. Stand up for yourself now as an individual. Have critical thinking for yourself, and pay attention to how people are treating you. And if we are all doing these things individually, mm-hmm. real change happens. Absolutely. A lot of people don't do anything until it's a meltdown, though. They whine to other people. They don't stand up. And they don't
talk to the right people.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if it's out of fear or what, but.
Well, people like to complain, right? So
yes.
If Bridgette comes and complains to me about where she works, well, that doesn't help her at all, because I can't do anything about where she works unless she's on my podcast. Then she tells me what to do anyway. You know, but you know, Bridgette has to go and talk to people that can make a change or make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
You know, now, and it's easier to do when you're working with small companies. But by all means, when you don't say anything at all, no one knows you're upset. Okay. So, and when you let it go too far and you are that boiling pot, now you have put yourself in a vulnerable position because now you appear overly emotional and folks don't want to listen to what you have to say. You need to do it calmly and rationally. But also, let's go back to our discussion just a little bit about public officials. Run for office. All of us who want to complain have to remember that in order to do that, you'd best bring a solution. Perhaps your best solution is being the one who initiates the change by running for office. And don't worry, I've said the same thing. I don't want to do it. I'm not vettable. I don't know if I have thick enough skin. Well, then if you don't do it, who will? And are they going to make decisions that you don't like? Well, no. You put yourself in that position one more time where you're letting someone else control your discussions.
Good point. We have to go to break here. You're listening to the Truckers Network radio show on tncradio.live. I want to continue with this discussion and some great insight from David Henry and Bridgette Readel from the Crazy Canuck Truckin podcast. Stay tuned for more right here on tncradio.live. Space in a semi-truck is limited. A majority of truck drivers spend a good portion of their careers living on the road. Trying to fit all the necessary home items, personal products, work documents, and food in a tiny truck cab can be a challenge. Staying organized on the road helps you stay more productive and comfortable. It also helps to be organized in the event of a DOT inspection. The Truckers Network has 5 helpful organization tips for truck drivers. Storage containers. Storage containers are inexpensive and come in a variety of different sizes. Depending on the size, you can fit a storage container in many different places. Make sure to measure the container before buying to ensure you maximize your space. You'll want to use every bit of your cab. Some items you can put in the containers include canned or dry food, water, cleaning supplies, exercise equipment, and toiletries. Some of our recommended storage containers include Iris USA TB42 12-quart stack and pull box, Itemy 6-pack plastic storage baskets, weight trim foldable shoe box. Command hooks. Command hooks are a great way to maximize your space and keep things off the floor. Install a couple command hooks and you can hang your everyday coat, hat, or bag. Here's a pro tip. Use Velcro to attach to containers or different items so they don't slide around while driving on bumpy roads. Some of our recommended command hooks include Command small wire hooks, 16 hooks, 24 strips, Photo Snow adhesive hooks, ultra strong wall hangers and hooks, Budding Joy adhesive heavy-duty hooks. Over-the-door shoe organizer. An over-the-door shoe organizer is great for keeping your closet and your truck cab organized. Instead of storing shoes, store your cleaning supplies, personal items, and some clothes. Check out our recommended shoe organizers. 24 pockets, simple houseware crystal clear over-the-door hanging shoe organizer. Aristocrat Homeware's over-the-door shoe rack and closet organizer system with 24 extra-large heavy-duty pockets. Shower caddies. Truck stop showers are a place you'll often be. Having a shower caddy full of your shower routine necessities will help ensure you have everything you need. Forgetting your toiletries will have you buying some at the truck stop or running back out to your truck. Shower caddies are also great for holding condiments, drinks, and dinnerware. Some of our recommended shower caddies include Greenbrier Small Utility Shower Caddy Tote, 7-pocket shower caddy tote. Labels. Because there's limited space in a semi-cab, most of your things will be in containers. Investing in a label maker is a great way to organize your storage containers and drawers. It also makes it easy to find what you need. Check out some of our recommended labels and label makers. They include Dymo Letratag 100H Plus handheld label maker, address labels 2.625 by 1 pack of 3,000 labels.
This is Heath Sanders, and you're listening to TNCRadio.live.
Text and whatever. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Truckers Network radio show on tncradio.live. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly, and we're talking with David Henry and Bridgette Readel from the Crazy Canuck Truckin podcast. You folks have a great podcast that has a lot of great insight. I was wondering if you wanted to talk a little bit about that, too.
Well, I think it's only appropriate since David is the Crazy Canuck He should probably start that conversation for us.
Well, we've had some really good. I'm really happy with how things have been going the last several months. We've had some amazing guests on with amazing stories. The one that's out right now is a 3-parter with Greg Mackling, and I split it up into 3 parts because it's important to listen to everything he has to say and think about it and then listen to the next piece. And it was really good. And we got a guy coming up on March 1st. Yeah. So in another 2 weeks, the next guy coming up is a driver that has cerebral palsy and has not let that stop him from being a truck driver, being a delivery person, and the stuff he's fought through. And as a grandfather to a boy with cerebral palsy, it's not easy. I have a niece as well that deals with cerebral palsy, and it's just so heartwarming to see these people that have had crazy times in their life, and here they are bouncing back and doing amazing.
Well, but also when you think about their positive attitudes, okay, particularly with our guest, David, I think that resonates with what we were talking about here just a little while ago. If you're going to make a difference in the world, you're going to do it better as someone who's positive when you're outspoken than when you are a negative, belligerent source. So I think that just reiterates what we've already been sharing today as well.
Well, that's exactly right. We don't get any angry guests on our show, do we?
Well, maybe, but we don't have to actually publish those. So who would know if we did?
Maybe they've been angry with us afterwards. I don't know. No, I don't think so. But, they come out and they have such a clear, respectable message. You're just, me personally, I'm just blown away listening to these people. It's amazing guests.
It gives people an inspiration too, when you think about it, that things are possible. When people have a self-talk saying, hey, I can't do that, you realize, yes, I can.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I think that's the most important thing. Let's put ourselves back in the shoes of those folks who are trucking, who felt like they were not heard by their company or by a customer who just didn't want to treat them very fairly. And you're not asking for major changes. You're just simply asking to be treated fairly as a decent human being. I think what really matters here is for folks to know that it's just one small thing that we can each do. We've heard that so much in the last couple of years. We can do one small thing for each other. Well, it's no different in this situation, and as we talk about politics as well. We can just simply be decent.
And it does seem when people, when things like the Freedom Convoy happen, it's because everything's gotten to a boiling point. People don't feel like they're being heard. They don't know how to say, hey, no is a full sentence.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah. I want to, if I may, I want to give a quick little shout out to somebody else that's doing an amazing job. My nephew, Tyrone Henry. For the second time, he's going to be representing Canada at the Paralympics in the sledge hockey tournament at the Paralympics, and really proud of him. He's paralyzed pretty much from the waist down and has taken every opportunity to not just sit around and have everybody else wait on him hand and foot. He's worked hard. He was with the Rick Hansen Around the World tour for parts of it. The wheelchair around the world, and he did some parts in Canada and the US. And really proud of him. We're sticking with it. This is the second time he represented Canada in 2018. Here he'll do it again now as one of the returning veterans. So that's pretty cool.
That's excellent.
That's wonderful.
He's quite an inspiration. He was in a car wreck as a 17-year-old and as a passenger. And he is, one of the first things he said was, I can't play hockey anymore, but I can play sledge hockey. And he's done that, and he's represented us at the highest level. It's really cool. very inspiring story. We'll get
Yes.
him on the podcast sometime, I hope.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, you're going to have him on as a guest. He would be a great inspiration and have a wonderful message.
Yeah, you know, you can sit back, you can complain, or you can get out and do things.
Yeah.
That's kind of the message all the way through this today and through the convoy and everything. You know, like, you can complain all you want, but you need to have some action.
Yep. And we all have that friend that likes to complain, but never wants a solution.
Yeah.
You know?
And I will tell you, every manager I've ever had has always said, you can complain all you want, but if you bring me no solution, I can't help in any way.
That's
You
right.
have to at least be willing to have a hand in fixing whatever it is that is a problem.
Sure.
Yeah, that is so key. You know, identify the problem, research the problem, and then do something about it.
Exactly.
That's where it takes initiative, but that's what human beings are made of. You know, life isn't just sitting on your laurels, whether you like it or not. And you have to stand up for yourself, but do it in a positive way. And I totally agree with that. And maybe things don't get to a boiling point. Maybe things roll in the right direction with that kind of perspective and cooperation and positivity.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was on a podcast with Mark Manera from the trucking. He's the trucking fitness guy.
Mm-hmm.
And as a physiotherapist, you know, he always hated it when people would say, this is all you're going to be able to do. He thinks that should be struck out of any medical dictionary anywhere.
There you go.
Because never say, this is all you're going to be able to do. Because as human beings, there's such an intangible part there
Mm-hmm.
that we can accomplish far more than what we think or what the doctors are going to tell us. You know,
That's
we
right.
need to approach life completely different. Never sit back, like you said, sit on your laurels and wait for life to come at you.
That's right.
You go at life.
I love that message. We have less than a minute here. Where do people find your podcast?
You can find us pretty much everywhere at Crazy Canuck Truckin. You can go to our website, crazycanucktruckin.com. You can check us out on Twitter at Canuck Truckin, on Instagram, Crazy Canuck Truckin, YouTube, Crazy Canuck Truckin. On YouTube, I do some dash cam videos and some short clips and different things that happen as well. So come visit us at Crazy Canuck Truckin. Like, follow, share, rate us. I respond to everything that gets sent.
Excellent.
He really does. He's very interactive on this.
Thank you so much. You guys are such wonderful guests. Thank you for being on the show again, David and Bridgette, and I really welcome your perspective. This has been really helpful for all of our listeners on the Truckers Network radio show.
Thank you, Shelley and Tom. Really appreciate it.
Thank you,
You've been-
folks.
You're listening to TNCRadio.live. Stay tuned for more coming up. Thank you for listening to another great interview on TNCRadio.live and the Truckers Network radio show. All of the material you hear on TNCRadio.live on our website, our broadcasts, or our podcasts are copyrighted. There can be no distribution without the express consent of TNCRadio.live and its partners. For inquiries, write us at info@tncradio.live.